This story in the Eastern Cape. As the festive season comes to an end, Transport MEC Xolile Nqatha has revealed that more than 200 people lost their lives in the province in less than a month, from the 1st of December to the 28th. Now, the high-risk routes include the N2, where 42 fatalities were recorded. We also had the R61, where more than 21 fatalities occurred. Let's unpack this a little bit. Eastern Cape Transport spokesperson Unathi Bhingqose joins us now. Unathi, thank you so much for the time this morning on AM Report. Where's the problem exactly? Is it the roads? Is it alcohol from a lot of the drivers as well? Is it a lack of policing? What exactly is the reason for having 97 fatalities in the same period in 2023, 202 as of the latest data then in December last year?
It's going to be a combination of factors that has led to this. Maybe the issue of recklessness on our roads has been by far the most glaring one, in that we've seen a lot of head-on collisions that have been happening on some of the national roads, some of the better maintained roads, and in stretches at times that are as straight as anything with no clear obstruction. And of course, the issue of alcohol has been a major factor as well. The fact that we have been able to arrest no less than 500 people for drunk driving on the roads across the province in a period of just 28 days, that's also telling as well, because we'll never know how many accidents we may have saved by that. But unfortunately, some were not as lucky that were arrested, and they ended up causing accidents that have claimed lives and left many handicapped.
I mean, even just the loss of one life is already too much. So how do we cut it all out?
Look, we need to pull together. The reality is that we also need to increase our visibility as traffic law enforcement in the province. But of course, there is also a greater responsibility on you and I as road users, as drivers in particular. The fact that we have seen so many head-on collisions means that there may have been an error of judgment on the drivers overtaking where they are not supposed to. And of course, there was an accident that happened and that was covered by Newzroom Afrika, where there was a taxi driver who told the viewers that he was overtaking multiple cars and unfortunately ended up causing a head-on collision. Thankfully, in that instance, there was no souls that were lost. But we've seen a recurrence of this over and over again. And the difference between this year and the year before is that I was looking at Facebook memories, and the worst accident we had last year in terms of the number of fatalities was 8 people who died in one crash. And this year, we've had no less than 2 accidents that have claimed more than 10 lives. There was an accident that happened near Kraddock where 14 lives were lost in a head-on collision between an SUV and a minibus taxi. On the N2 near Dutwa, another stretch of the road, that is a national road fairly well maintained, we had a head-on collision there that claimed 12 lives. So these head-on collisions means that there's a lot that we need to do. And of course, we need to do an introspection as well as government to check if the quality of drivers that we're producing to be on our roads are of quality as well. So those are some of the tough questions that we'll need to answer to ourselves as well post this festive season as we move forward.
Unathi, so just to hop on that last point of yours, are you saying that perhaps stricter controls, stricter methods of attaining a license, a refresher course consistently perhaps being needed in order to raise awareness or create a more vigilant driver and awareness to these sorts of things? Are you suggesting that that could possibly be an element to be added, not just to public safety, but to roads and traffic, etc., in order then to help and alleviate the kind of deaths we see on our roads?
Those are certainly some things that we'll need to engage in going forward. It cannot be that we continue to have so many head-on collisions, some of which are happening on double barrier lines. Those are some of the things that you learn as a learner driver, that you do not overtake on top of a barrier line. But we're seeing people losing their lives in head-on collisions that are happening on top of barrier lines. You can't help but question the understanding of the rules of the road by these drivers that continue to do these things. So we need to probe that as well if we are to, make a dent in this carnage that we're seeing on our roads, not just in the province, but across the country.
Yeah. The DA has called for the installation of average speed over distance cameras on the stretches of the N2 where accidents and fatalities are prevalent. What do you think? Should there be?
Most definitely, and the plans to get those are on the pipeline, and we're hoping that going forward, it won't be something that we're only speaking about. It will be something that will be there as well. In fact, we are working very hard to make that a reality, because that also serves as a deterrent in terms of speed, people managing their speed. Because some of the problems that we have are that these accidents are happening at very high speeds and claiming so many lives. So if we can have those measures in place as we are working towards getting them, we believe that we'll be able to make a dent in the carnage that we're seeing on our roads. So we welcome that suggestion, and it's a suggestion that we are already working towards making a reality.
Fantastic. Staffing shortages, then let's talk about those. What was that like then during this past festive season? Does that need to be beefed up? You did speak about presence also being made, not just during the festive season, but of course as well across the year.
Look, we can't discount that the more officers on the ground we have, the better. But we welcome the support that we've gotten from our sister law enforcement entities like your police, who are also on the ground working with us, and all the rapid response teams that have worked really hard during the festive season. Of course, it continues for another 2 weeks, but we can do well with more boots on the ground. But it is worth noting as well that at the beginning of this festive season, the MEC for Transport in the province, Mr. Golengata, was, unveiling 150 more boots on the ground that worked tirelessly to ensure that the picture, as bad as it is, it's not looking any worse than it already is. So we did have a beef up of 127 new officers that were working with us, but of course we can do with a bit more.
Is it a case that maybe we took things for granted, considering that we only had 97? And I say only, it's still absolutely horrendous. But the fact that the number was below 100 last year, this year having doubled, would you say that there was perhaps a little bit of just expecting things to just continue in a downward trajectory, or was this something that perhaps caught the department by surprise?
Over the past 4 years, we have been on a constant decline in terms of the number of fatalities. And of course, we reached our peak last year in reducing the number of fatalities compared to the year before by 21.5%. Of course, I can't say that there was complacency, because the drive was to, at the very least, match that that rate in which we decreased last year, or even beat it. But surprisingly, accidents happened, and unfortunately, so many lives were lost. And bizarre accidents in that we've seen an unprecedented number of head-on collisions. And unlike in years gone by, we've seen a lot of accidents that involved minibus taxis this year, unlike in years gone by. So we will need to maybe go back and work very closely with the industry as well to help us, reduce these fatalities. Because if a minibus taxi is involved in an accident, unfortunately, naturally, there will be a lot more people that will be affected by that. And unfortunately, and that worst has happened in that there were quite a number of crashes that involved minibus taxis, and multitudes of lives were lost there.
Yeah, perhaps even greater scrutiny then as well of road, vehicles that are really worthy. Roadworthiness as well is going to be very important in a time like this. So Nati, thank you so much. We really appreciate it as well to have this conversation, a very troubled time indeed, and hopefully a lot more work to be put in order to create the kind of awareness that we need all our motorists to have. Please, please be careful on the roads, whether you're making your return or headed out, wherever it is that you are in the country. Please be careful on our roads. That was Unati Pinqose, the Eastern Cape Transport spokesperson.